We are live. Yes, yes, yes. We have the wonderful host and Miss Kimberly. Oh my gosh, Kimberly's an amazing host, and we're so excited to have B here with us. B, how you doing today?
Doing well.
Doing good?
Oh, it's another
Awesome.
beautiful day, staying out of crazy weather, so everything's good.
You're in Texas, correct?
Yes.
Nice, nice, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so today's interview is going to be a lot of fun. We're excited, B, to hear about your wins and how things are processed or progressed for you. But before we do that, I have to give out this really cool announcement. So there's what's called the Money Bee Challenge that's coming up. And for all of you in the chat, and for those of you who will be watching this video, the Money Bee Challenge is happening June 3rd and the 4th, which is, I believe I wrote that down here. It's a Monday and Tuesday. Okay. This challenge is going to be worthwhile for your business because, again, we always talk about how we can scale our business. But this is, I don't want to call it bite size. This is going to be a plentiful experience on the 3rd and the 4th, by which Pace will be showing people how to scale their business, looking at ways to how to create your business. They'll be identifying and selecting your target market, along with some other nuances as well. So we highly encourage you guys to get involved in the Money Bee Challenge. That will be June 3rd and the 4th. We'll have more information on that, excuse me, in the chat. So without further ado, take it away, Kimberly.
Thank you, Derek, and welcome everyone. First and foremost, I have to give a shout out to Derek and the whole Morby media team. They do such an amazing job, y'all, at getting this on. It takes a small army to pull these off with emails and texts and reminders, not only to me, but to like fabulous guests like B. A little bit about myself. My name is Kimberly. I am your live at 5 every Tuesday host here in the creative community. I have two sides. On my real estate side, I close, connect, consult, collaborate, and capital raise. On my entrepreneur side, I'm a nursepreneur. I'm a nurse by trade. I'm also a podcast host, a keynote speaker, a CPR instructor, a coach, an author, and I have a ministry here in Southwest Michigan. And I have the amazing privilege to interview Miss B. And I brought my favorite cup, Be Unique, for her. So welcome, B.
Thank you.
So I'm just, I read a little bit about your backstory. So cannot wait to dive into what you're doing in the TC world and all that good stuff. So welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's an honor because you sound like Superwoman.
I mean, aren't all moms? Because what I
Yeah.
was reading in your bio is that you were a stay-at-home mom, superwoman. Yay.
Yeah.
Like seriously, Pansy's not messing around. Like women have it hard. We're mothers, we're teachers, we're nurses, we're entrepreneurs, we're bus drivers, we're everything. So according to the notes that I received on UB, you were a stay-at-home mom and then you transitioned into transaction coordination. So tell us a little bit about that, about what you were doing before you got into this crazy roller coaster world of real estate.
So initially, the way it all kind of started off was our real first introduction, and it wasn't even part of Pace's community yet. We started off with Airbnb arbitrage, my husband and I. And when we did that for 2 years. And in the middle of it, we found out, husband had a new position. He had, we had just moved, in the middle of all that chaos, we found Pace and we're like, this seems really interesting. Like, wow, okay, cool. So right away, it just made sense for us, especially financially. We're like, well, we could do that. Absolutely. So we dived in deeper, and right away, I knew that I wanted to be a TC. I was like, that's it. That's what I'm good at. That's just me. I know it. And next thing I know, my husband's a closer. Okay. So we're like, okay, great. It works out, So, well, with the move, with everything financially going on, we're like, okay, we just paid for SubTo, and he's focused on his W-2, and the TC course had just launched, and we're like, we got to wait. I was like, okay. So what could I do to keep myself occupied in the meantime? I literally made as many connections as I could. Connect, like network, like Zooms like crazy. I remember when I first posted, I was like, all right, guys, I'm just throwing myself out there. Who wants to meet me? And so as soon as I did that, I mean, 9 people within 15 minutes were like, boom, 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 booking calls. And I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I should like let them know, like I'm probably give them a cap or something. Cause I was so new to it. Like, I was like, okay. So, so I did that. I learned underwriting, you know, and I just kept myself busy as much as I could to figure out, okay, where do I belong, you know? And I had to go through this journey of growth before I even made a connection that introduced me to one of my team leaders. And I was like, look, I'm in a position, we full-time Airbnb. We got 1 vehicle, we got 2 kids and 1 on the way.
Oh, wow.
And I want to be able to help support my husband, you know, in whichever way he goes, because at the time he was working 16, 17-hour shifts, 6 days a week, door-to-door sales. And I was like, all right, let's do something. What can I do? And, you know, 2 kids and homeschooling, I was just kind of, I've always wanted to do more. Especially
more than that, right?
Yeah.
That sounds exhausting enough, right? I want to do more. Give it to me.
So, and I felt like it was something more for me personally, you know, that eventually our kids are going to grow, you know, and I'd like to have something still there that I could be a part of and, you know, bring to also support my family. Right. And in the midst of everything, I made the greatest connection ever that introduced me to one of my team leaders for Finish Line TC Services. And since then, it's been boom. I mean, it's been incredible. I have an amazing team, amazing leadership. And since then, I've just been absorbing everything that I can. Everything that I can.
Nancy says, sounds familiar.
Yes. And so any opportunity that I get a chance to learn, like, tell me about it. And it took a lot of self-growth to get there too, you know, to unlearn a lot of old habits that weren't working for me, and then learning from the mistakes and thinking, okay, it's going to happen. It's more about, you know, knowing that you're going to get the win. Just try not to worry about when it will happen.
Right.
You know, so I had to really, really focus in on that. And so, yeah, so since then, I've been rocking and rolling, loving what I do. And it's helped tremendously financially too. So as we were transitioning and, you know, almost, you know, late summer, early fall, welcoming another baby. I mean, yeah.
Wow. So a recap. So arbitrage, Airbnb, kids, husband working full time, and you're like, let me add on one more thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess because mostly like we knew that we didn't want to do the Airbnb arbitrage full time. We wanted to actually accumulate like our own physical assets.
Sure.
And eventually not have to worry about, you know, going and checking and doing all this. We outsourced everything, however, still it was, and then we didn't want to depend on the short-term rental either. So that wasn't like one of our strategies that we were really focused on. And we didn't realize it until we got into SubTo. And so we're like, okay, short-term rental, we don't want to do because there's always a downfall. There's off seasons, you know, we just didn't want to have to deal with that and then pick up the slack for that. If that's the only thing, we're basically paying 2 mortgages. And I was like, no, so when the market dipped, the end of last year, we actually pulled that. We were a super host for like 2 years straight. So we did that. We're like, all right, we learned we don't want to do it anymore. Let's focus on something else. So Yeah. So it's been, we've kind of picked up some things, let go of some things, learned things along the way, and kind of figured out what fit us and what doesn't. So
That's awesome. And oftentimes that is what the entry is like into this field. There's
yeah.
ups and downs and all around, and you don't know what you don't know until you're actually in the thick of it. Like
Yeah.
arbitrage can be very beneficial, and you can learn a lot of different skill sets and
Mhm.
about generalized business. But if you're a buy and hold, if you want to create, generational wealth, well, then the exit strategies are different and whatnot. And we have someone chiming in. Bee's a super woman and a heck of a TC. That's awesome.
That's my husband.
Oh, yay. I didn't even recognize the last name. Awesome. Well, I would agree. Just hearing what you guys have pulled off is nothing short of amazing. And you mentioned a leader that you first were introduced to. So do you want to give a shout out to the leader's name? Because when you
Yes.
talked about that leader, you lit up. I saw your skin change, and I'm a nurse by trade, so I'm always like assessing. So did you want to give a shout out to that
Of
person?
course, Jennifer Cortez. She's
Okay.
amazing. She really, truly, gave me an opportunity, which
Mm-hmm.
not a lot of people do. And especially in a time where I was like, I'm ready. I'm willing to do the work, mold me, use me,
Oh,
just tell me what to do and I will do it. And especially in a time where it was getting pretty rough, and I was really blessed. And so since then she's, had faith in me. She's been supportive, and anything I'm like, I've always kept the thought of how Molly is with Pace, and Pace is always like, what are you doing to be a doer, right?
mhm.
And it's like, how can I be a doer like Molly is to Pace for Jennifer? So, and the rest of the
Oh,
team, so
that's
yeah.
awesome. Everyone needs a Molly in their life. I just was mentioning, talking to her in the bathroom at the Golden Ticket event. I compare everything with nursing. It seems like because I've been a nurse for so long, and I'm like, man, like the TCs are like the nurses aid of the industry. And actually, a lot of people don't know this about me, but my LLC is top tier certified for TC work. And so I don't actively use it as a business, but I wanted to learn as an investor so I could make things go more smooth through files. And I have TC to file from beginning to end. And I'm like, yeah, no gracias. Don't want anything. Like I'll talk to attorneys and escrow processors and do emails all day long, but you put the nitty gritty stuff, like, no, right? And a lot of people have to argue their words sometimes. And you guys, I feel like, just get so much of the brunt of anything that happens in the transaction, kind of like a nurse, right? So
Oh
it's
yeah.
amazing that you felt that love within the community. And I love Finish Line. I had a file that kind of got dropped in my lap in January, just came in and just hooked a sister up and helped me through it. So shout out to the Cortezes and to Finish Line. Keep up the great work in the community. Your name is, out there and well known for your great work. And so that's awesome that you felt supported. So with that support and meeting leaders in the industry and trying to tie in and being a Molly to your husband and your kids and all moves and your pregnancy and all this stuff, how did you actually find this deal? Like, so did they bring the deal to you? Did someone reach out to you? Because you were saying that your inbox was blowing up. So was it someone that sought you out, or then Jennifer's like, here, I have this file. Let's see how you do.
Yeah, pretty much. So Jennifer, we did an internship. So I did an internship
Oh,
for
cool.
about a month and a half. And, just to kind of find my bearings, see, how well it's going to be at the end, whether if this is for me or not. And of course, I took to it. I was like, yeah, let's do it. And this, deal was brought. We kind of went over it, and I was like, okay. And a lot of it, I also had to do a lot of, almost like detective work, critical thinking and
Sure.
figuring out, okay, well, this is here. Okay. I also need to figure out what's going on with it and why no one's talking about it. So I got to bring things up, and I don't mind. I'm that person. I'm very sincere. I'm honest and very kind with my words. So, I'm just like, hey guys, we need this. Like keeping people accountable, and that was just my thing. So I was like, great, let's do it. And so the whole step, she helped guide me through it and made sure, all right, communication was huge too. I already kind of had that experience with communicating, especially professionally and through email and phones, all of that. So back then, before I was a stay-at-home mom, so I still carried that experience. And so that really helped me put to use, my skills. And yeah, she walked me through it. And I mean, little by little, I was like, oh, okay, I got this. I understand this works with this. And, okay. And then learning too how, one creative deal is not just one creative deal. There's also other things that you can add to it, that are different transactions. And so having to maneuver those into that other one, it's like, okay, it's just figuring out a big puzzle and just knowing where the pieces connect. And once it's all nice and done and pretty and you deliver it to your client, you're like, here you go. So,
ta-da!
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that's really how it should feel, because you do put in all that work, and it takes all of the qualities, like you mentioned, like your Inspector Gadget, like 1988 style, go gadget arm, grabbing the file and just babysitting it and doing the follow-ups and communicating. Like that's huge. And so like right away, did you take like some kind of personality quiz or some kind of strength quiz to find out exactly like, okay, so you knew that you had the qualities that possess that kind of babysitting of the file, because that's kind of what it is. You have to babysit these files. And we have a question here. So do you recommend a person become a TC before a gator? You want to take that one, Bea? Or
Sure. I mean, gators usually, they work with, knowing how, or lending, right? So when it comes to lending, you just want to make sure you have your due diligence. And as a TC, you're working the actual transaction versus the lending part. So, if you want to work and see how that process is before you actually start lending, I mean, I'd say go for it. And if not, and you feel like, you know what, that is too much paperwork or too much, email threads in one, like, I'm just going to stick to getting to know someone who knows this process and make sure that they take care of me and that I'm secured, and be a gator, so.
Sure. Yeah. And that's the thing, Rhonda. There's so many ways to make money in real estate. You just have to sometimes, we talked about this on the last podcast with Britt, is you have to just sometimes trial and error and see what you're good at. Gator turned out to be kind of, it morphed into different things that morphed into a safety class. And so it just depends on what your investing style is. Do you want to provide that EMD for wholesalers, or maybe you want to further that and do something more in the lending world? Because the two aren't the same, because they're a lot different in how you cross collateralize, the different kind of due diligence that you do, the promissory notes, deed of trust, personal guarantee, escalation clauses, schedule of work, blah, 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 blah. You can go on and on and on. So it just really depends, Rhonda, like where you're at in your real estate journey. Maybe you're like Bea and you're like a super mom and a super wife and super like with communication. We need people like Bea in the community helping us with these files, because I had to do some TC work today and I spent like 4 hours and I was like, oh my goodness, it's a lot. Calling places, talking to people. You have to follow up with everything. So this is so needed in this community. So really, I think it depends on your strengths. And then do what Bea did. Inbox her, talk to people from Finish Line, Jennifer and January and other people like within the community, and see if they like their jobs. Because what I started off in ortho-renal when I was a nurse and I hated it. I'm like, forget this. I want my patients intubated. So just do your own due diligence about mentorships too, because you'll find something that you like. And we have another comment coming in. We love Bea. Bea is cool people. And it's so interesting too, because I found something about a bee. Can I read a little bit about the bumblebee? Because I love your name.
Course.
So it's a really cool saying. It's the bumblebee. According to the laws of aerodynamics, the bumblebee cannot fly. Its body is too heavy for its wings, but the bumblebee doesn't know this fact, and so it flies anyway for all to see. Like, how amazing is that? I saw that. I was like, I have to bring out that in my cup.
Yes.
I was reading your bio and I just was like, that's just so cool that not only are you taking a chance in yourself, but you invest in these mentorships and in your family and in your husband, and to support your husband because he's in SubTo. And when you guys are closing, if you don't want to do arbitrage for long term, then you guys complement, one another.
Yeah.
You're the Molly to him, right?
Yeah. And and this really, because it's coming up a year that I'm going to be in SubTo. Okay. So this really didn't pick up and start until this year. So,
okay.
Throughout that time when I first joined the community, it took me almost, 7-8 months for me to even get an opportunity. So throughout that time, I just made sure I always worked my butt off, make sure that I kept contact, kept in touch with the community, made sure that, hey, I don't know what I have of value right now, but eventually I will. Eventually, as much information that I gather and learn about myself and about everything else in the community, I'm going to find a way to help someone regardless. And so I just kind of kept that going, and it's been going.
And going very well. And it was really cool that you had the opportunity to get your feet and your hands wet into something and see, hey, is this a fit for me? And then you had that opportunity not to dive right in, and you had that safety net of other leaders and communities that have been pioneers before you say, hey, this is how it's done, and this is what you can do, this is what you should do, yada, yada, yada. And it's a nice entry to get into this field. And if you don't like it, then the most that you've lost is you really haven't lost anything, because you have the education and the knowledge. And then if you want to go TC your own deals, go for it. I want to pay a TC to do it for me, because there's a lot of ins and outs, and there's so much in the back end that you don't hear about or see. And Alyssa's saying, amen, girlfriend. Seriously though, amen, like for reals. And so you had this opportunity to TC a case. So what kind of file was it? Was it a SubTo, Novation? Like, it
was a SubTo.
Okay.
And so usually we want to keep the simple ones, start off with the more simpler ones, right? They're not all simple.
SubTo is so simple, right?
Yeah. So we just want to make sure that we start off with the smaller ones, should I say, less intricate, So it's a subject to. And the great thing about being on a team is that you have others working it with you too. So if there's, not just SubTo, like this deal, there was also an EMD and also a PML, so those are two other different transactions going on. And so with that, we're able to collaborate and work together and help each other through that transaction. So there was a SubTo, first SubTo for the client as well. And so for me, it was like, okay, I want to make sure, this client has everything he needs. I want it to be the best SubTo experience, ever. And especially for me, because it also carries more of, an expectation for myself. Like, hey, this is how it's going to be. And I want it to be great. And not just for this person, but carrying it on that way all the way through, for as many SubTo transactions as I do. And so, SubTo, and there was a tenant in the location. And so, keeping everyone accountable, I'm like reaching out. I'm like, hey guys, sometimes the wholesalers and buyers kind of communicate on their end, and we don't get to know everything. And so I have to reach out and be like, hey, so did y'all come to an agreement, especially about these tenants? And they're like, yes. And so with that, I was like, okay, great. make any amendments that I need to do or addendums. And then, and so from there, we also review the HUDs and we make sure that, okay, there's a security deposit. Where is it? Right?
Mhm.
Well, funny thing. So with the SubTo, us TCs, something that attorneys and title companies aren't going to do is go and get information, especially for buyers, right?
Mhm.
So that are needed from
Yep.
the tenants.
Right.
They need tenant information. And so making sure that the security deposit is transferred to them. And so
Mhm.
with the seller was like, well, I can't bring anything to the to closing. I have a property management holding that security deposit. And we're like,
Mhm.
okay, great. So he told title's like, yep, cash, seller's not bringing anything to closing. We're like, okay. I called the property management company, and property management's like, well, the seller actually told us to release the security deposit to him. And I was like, what? Like, no, that actually needs to get transferred to our new buyer now. And they're like, okay. And so I had to go and create this whole email, including everyone, making sure
Sure.
everyone was there. I was
Mhm.
like, all right, guys, there's a security deposit. I need it to be addressed to the buyer. Let's figure this out. And sure enough, because of that, the seller was like, okay, property management keeps it, buyer gets to work with the property management, and all else, as well. So I'm like, okay, good, we got that settled. But little things like that, a lot of times
Yes.
the title company is not going to do for you.
Right.
They're not going to, make sure that you have all your funds there. Because
Mhm.
even as TCs, we're reviewing HUDs. And just recently, even on this other deal, they counted a second lien twice. So I
Oh.
was like, oh, no.
That's a problem.
Hey, you need to correct this. And so we look out for those things. And so
Mhm.
we just want to make sure that they're secured. And we do this because it brings us joy to know that, hey, we can do this for y'all. We want to make sure that they're protected, they're taken care of, and they're set up for success. So,
And
yeah.
and you've done that so very well. I mean, there are so many moving pieces to these files. You don't realize how many moving pieces there are until you have to do them yourself. And you're like, yeah, I think I'll hire that out. So we have a question here from Devin. Do you think agent outreach is the best way to start wholesaling as a new investor? You want to take that one?
Sure. So agent outreach is really, do you connect and do you have enough knowledge to connect with the agents? Uh, sometimes people find themselves they more personable with the sellers. And so it's just kind of finding your niche. And if you do, I always suggest connect with people who are direct to agent, who are DTAs, who are knowledgeable. And because a lot of times agents themselves who aren't as experienced in creative finance, they're they're always looking for that tag too to say realtor and of yourself. And so if you don't kind of bring that, they're just kind of iffy about it. They're like, nah. And so you just want to make sure that you have someone there also to help you through it. And then it's something that you feel comfortable with talking to them. Find your niche when talking to them. Like, find a certain groove that you know how to talk to them if you do.
Right. And provide value back and be educated before going into it so you can explain what wholesaling is. Have your gator ready so you can get that money in for the EMD. Have a buyer's list. Like have all the T's crossed and the I's dotted before you have these conversations. Like, yes, I have a buyer's list. Yes, I have money to get into secure, blah, blah, blah. Like when you come in with intention and integrity and you lead with value, people are always willing to listen because realtors oftentimes they're not investors, and a realtor and an investor, they're two different, you can't, it's like comparing apples with oranges. You just can't. And so some have more experience, some are willing to listen, some are not. So, and Alyssa says, gotta love all the TCs in the community. Yes, we are very blessed to have a great group of people. And anytime that you're in the chats, because I'm in the Facebook group, and somebody has a question, like people are like, choom, they're answering. You have leaders, Midwest and East Coast, and there's so many different people that will help you, even if you don't hire them per se. If you have a question, if you put it out into the community, whether creative or SubTo, I feel like your answer will be, it'll be addressed by somebody that has knowledge in the field. So, I mean, it's amazing when everything comes together. So knowing that you have all this other stuff going on, what are your short-term, midterm, like long-term goals? Like, it sounds like you're really comfortable with being on a team and you feel very well supported and you love working together with your other colleagues. What are your plans, or your husband's plans, or even together, of what you're going to be doing now and then possibly later in this industry?
So as of now, kind of going into also personal too, because it's kind of wrapped all into one right now. So being that we were full-time Airbnb it, well, now we're thankfully, like I said, connections, right? I've been really, really blessed. And knowing how, I kind of came to this point where I've been just putting myself out there and giving and offering and making sure that I take care of everyone that I can. That I kind of like lost a little bit of like, oh, hey, I have resources. Like, let's definitely use these to kind of help us out here, And so someone reached out and was like, hey, are you looking for someone? Like, yeah, like we are. And so now, thankfully, we have someone helping us, look for a homestead. And, we'll be doing that. So kind of step by step, I love being on a team. And I honestly don't see myself out on my own doing anything by myself for a long time. I'm more of like, I want to stay long term and, stability, right? So I just want to make sure throughout all the chaos that I do, right? So I want to make sure something's definitely secured there. Eventually, once we have our home, we can always use it as a transitional home and keep it as an asset, rent it out. And so building our assets, right? Eventually, multifamily is up there. We would like to be a part of that. In fact, we are part of the SubTo fund. So we managed to get part of that. So I was like, yay. And, thankfully, we've been able to just continuously grow and be part of what we can when we can. We understand our limits too. Like, hey, we just can't. We got to wait.
That's important.
It's okay. Yeah. And
yes. No, you're speaking to a girl after my own heart, because a lot of people don't understand this, where they just want to acquire. And then sometimes if you don't have systems and operations, it can get very messy and very tricky very easily. And then when there's other people involved, and especially people in SubTo, where the seller is trusting you with this precious gift that he's or she's giving, like, it has to be taken serious. And if you have too many fires burning, you only have so many fires extinguishers or so many TCs or so many resources and tools before it gets out of control. So that's amazing emotional intelligence that you just displayed there. Is like, I just want to progress. And we have another question. As a beginner, who do I reach out to once I get a yes from an agent or a seller and we sign? I mean, you can hit us up, Carlos, and that's what these are about, is highlighting the people in the community like Bea and all the other awesome folks that I get a chance to interview. Hit us up on social and in our inbox and ask questions in the free creative space. There's so much on YouTube and all the different channels. And like Derek said, there is a challenge coming up. What was it? Did he say it was the Money Bee?
The Money Bee Challenge.
Okay. I don't know if that's free or if it's for the paid. I know they do a lot in the community, but
Yeah.
I know Carly Grunman and Jennifer Champion, they have office hours. A lot of the leaders are starting to have office hours now, and you can pop in and ask questions, and that's a time that you can get value. And again, there's so much out there that's free. So I love that answer. That just like makes me so happy that you're that.
Thank you.
You're that
It took a
aware.
lot of time. It took a lot
does.
of pain, moments of pain of like,
Mhm.
why don't
Yeah.
like self-building, just
Oh.
letting things go. And
Mhm.
yeah, it took a lot, and I'm still doing it.
Right.
So-
And you mentioned homestead. Where are you trying to find a home so you can put it out into the YouTube universe and all the platforms of where you're actually looking at to do the acquisition of your own home?
So we're looking out more towards West Texas.
Okay. Which is,
Um,
I'm not familiar with Texas
Um,
too much.
Usually, just anything away from the border and anything away from the major cities. So
Okay. Okay.
anything west of Texas, we're good. Like,
Okay.
yeah,
Gotcha.
it could be in small towns. We're okay with that. We love that. So
Okay. And are there any requirements? Because it sounds like you do have a growing family. Is like a 3-2,
Yeah.
a 4-2. You don't care anything. Is it creative that you're looking for? Or no?
creative, definitely.
Mhm.
SubTo, seller finance, and if it also has an additional unit, we do not mind house hacking it.
Nice.
So yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Acreage.
Bring her the deals, guys. Like she can give you like a referral fee and a friend fee, right? Or maybe even discount off like a TC fee or something for you. Like that's what I love about this community is you can barter too. Like I barter with coaching and CPR and different things like, okay, I'll do this. How about you do that? I mean, and this is where the power of community comes in to help out in these situations, to help out fellow, community members. So that's amazing. So
And
a couple more questions. Oh, go
one
ahead.
other
Sorry.
thing I want to add.
Sure.
That's the beauty of it is that when you really put yourself out there and focus on giving more than taking, you'd be so much more surprised as to how much people will give back. Because when you do that, I mean, shout out to Jeff Hamilton too, because he is the one who made that connection between Jennifer and I. He is the one who offered the community a free Clifton strength test. And I won. And I was like, oh my gosh. I remember I was so down that morning. And when I read that, I was like, I got teary-eyed and I was like, okay. And that helped me too, in my connection and what I do and looking forward to what I do. So a lot of people are there to help. And so we want to make sure that we're doing right by them and doing our diligence and making sure that we're there for them. So.
Right. Yeah. Word. I mean, word up. If they still say word up, right? Shows my age, pushing 50. So what would you say to people that are listening today that are like, okay, there's all these different mentorships. There's SubTo, there's Gator, there's Top Tier, there's other ones outside of Pace's community. What would you say for someone like yourself that's managing a husband and kids and a household and all the superwoman stuff that you do? What would you say if they were on the fence about joining? What like one line or word of wisdom could you give to that person?
If they're looking for an opportunity for growth, join. Even if it means making payments to it, like we did a payment plan from, I want to say for 7 months, 8 months, we did a payment plan. You do what you got to do, put your priorities where you want to grow, because for as long as you keep paying for expensive things and not in your true self and growth and assets that can build you more later on, like
that part. Yeah. You can't put a monetary value on the investing in yourself. You just can't. As a mom, as a wife, as an investor, as a community member, you have to invest in yourself so you can pour out to other people. And then how can people connect with you? What's a good way to connect with you? Facebook, email, Instagram? Feel free to drop your handles and then Derek will put it in the comments so they can reach out to you and message you.
Okay, sure. Do you want me to put it in like the chat, or how does
You
that
can
work?
just go ahead and say it, and Derek
Okay.
should go ahead and put it in the comments if he's
Um,
listening.
Yeah. So, I'm available on Facebook. Message me through Messenger, Bea Portillo, and on Instagram, the Bea Portillo, and email as well, Bianca at fltcservices.com. And so anytime really, I have a Calendly link that I always send out just so that way they know what my availability is.
Sure.
Being a mom and homeschooling and
Woo!
daughter's just starting jujitsu. So it's also prioritization too, right?
Mhm.
Schedule
Sure.
blocking. So that's huge.
Yes.
Making
Awesome.
sure that the THE, like the
Yeah.
Bea.
Gotcha. Instead of the VB, it's T. We'll get that fixed. We'll fix it up.
See,
Well,
I'm already a TC. I'm like,
I know, right? You're already
natural for
TC in
me.
the file. Come on. Tonality and pronunciation is important. I struggle with that too. It's hard for sure. So thank you so much for being on here and sharing such a personal, amazing story with everything that you're doing. Again, folks, you can connect with her on Instagram. And if anybody else has a win out there that they would love to share, please feel free to email Taya, Taya, pacemorby.com and share your wins. And so I have a chance to host you every Tuesday live at 5 Eastern Standard Time.
Quick question. So B, I want this IG to be perfect. It's the Bea Portillo.
Yes,
Okay. Like that?
you got it.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Please reach out to this lady. She is fantastic. That's so cool. Your husband jumped in. I'm like, ooh, look at Mr. Sergio.
He's
Look
amazing.
at him.
He's so amazing. He really is. I always say that, they ask you that, what's the one thing you would take with you if you were ever stranded on an island? I
Yes.
tell them I'd be my husband. He'd keep me alive.
Aw.
So
That wonderful husband.
yeah.
That's good. That's good. So earlier you guys were asking about the Money Bee Challenge, or whether it's free. Yes, it is free.
Yes.
And
Okay,
that's going to
cool.
be happening on June 3rd and the 4th, as I mentioned before. That's a Monday and a Tuesday. More information about that means that it's going to be great for scaling your business. You need LLC. You want to be in this Money Bee. How to go about doing that? Do you want more leads? How do you acquire leads that are good leads? They'll talk about that. Excuse me, what's your day-to-day? What's your cadence? How do you do this without being overwhelmed? Pace is going to go over all of that with this challenge, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're truly looking forward to it. Also, there are many Bea Portillos out there that have amazing stories to tell. Of course, we know our Bea is extremely unique. So Bea, we know you're super unique, right? And special. Trust that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. But this community has so many people that has these amazing stories and highs and lows, peaks and valleys of what they went through. And that's what this is for the environment to see, wow, that was a struggle. I'm dealing with that too, right? It's relatable. So if you're out there, if you're in the chat, and you're a SubTo student, a Gator student, top tier TC, if you're a TC and you want to share your wins, please send us an email to, let me put that here, to taya@pacemorby.com so that we can feature you, and you too can have an opportunity of being interviewed by the wonderful Kimberly as well as our other hosts. So that'd be fantastic if you guys do that. And I'm going to put that, oh, there it is. There it is.
Ask and you shall receive.
Yes, yes. Taya@pacemorby.com. Please shoot Taya. She's brilliant.
She's
an email.
amazing. She really is.
Yeah, she's fantastic. So again, B, thank you so much for being here. B, let me ask you this question, B, real quick before I let you go.
Yeah.
Were you at at Squad Up Summit this year?
I wasn't.
You
I
wasn't?
was not. So
Okay.
with moving and being 6 months pregnant, I was like, I really don't want to travel. And I'm not going to lie, we're on a budget right now.
Yes.
It's part of those times where I'm like, I even messaged Pace and I was like, I'm feeling all this FOMO because there was, Golden Ticket and there was Squad Up. And I'm like, I'm not there. And he's like, the best part of it is that this is a forever community. This isn't just one moment. There's going to be plenty of opportunity to go to all those meetups. And I'm like,
yes.
okay, good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, don't have FOMO, but I just want to say, and I've said this before, those who are in the chat regularly, of course, for Derek Smith, it was my first time being physically around the community. It was the first time I met the superwoman known as Kimberly, okay, in person, live. I could actually touch her like, oh, wow, you're real, right? Oh my God, I met so many amazing people. Oh my God, Lance and his beautiful wife, Jessie, they were just like amazing people. And so, over 2,000 people. So it was, I'm still kind of, myself and some of the staff members here who attended, we are still kind of walking. Our feet aren't really touching the ground still, right? Yeah, because everyone was just, it was like a family reunion of people you've never met that you know. That you love. So it was a family reunion. Yeah.
I will definitely get to that point. I will.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you will. Yeah, we know you will.
For sure. But you were represented, because I did see Mrs. Cortez there and Jay Holder, and I met January for the first time and in person. So it was nice to give hugs to her. I'm like, thank you. And just like Angel said, this is a forever community. Yes. So true. Yes.
So true. Absolutely. It was a brilliant experience. So again, thank you, B. And as always, Kimberly, you are fantastic. You're brilliant. I'm still learning. I'm taking notes as you're asking questions. So you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.